two main messages emerge from the economic research. First, deep cuts in annual emissions are feasible, and if the right policies are in place, they shouldn't be very costly. Second, early action to keep the average global temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius or less, and to reverse the growth of the world's greenhouse gas emissions before 2020 is preferable to delay. And I want to say a bit more about this question about, is early action a good idea? I think the literature suggests strongly that it is. Early action induces innovation sooner because it gives learning, experience, scale economies and networks time to evolve. It recognises that the diffusion of new technologies throughout the world economy is not instantaneous, even when those technologies have become broadly cost competitive with existing ones. Early action globally avoids piecemeal application of policies and the displacement of greenhouse gas emissions to late adopters of policies, what people talk about as carbon leakage. Early action allows policymakers to establish long-run credibility of the climate policy framework sooner, and that should encourage firms themselves to pursue innovation and market opportunities in low emissions technologies and products. Early action allows more gradual and hence less expensive capital scrapping and retrofitting of equipment. And early action preserves the possibility of being able to intensify climate change policy if new scientific or economic evidence down the road warrants it. And finally, early action allows the maximum benefit to be obtained from correcting the various market failures, as economists call them, that afflict the energy system and land use. In other words, early action allows us to benefit from the so-called win-win strategies emphasised by some studies, the abatement options that actually make money for firms and households. Now, economic studies suggest that keeping the global temperature rise to 2 degrees or less will require strong policy actions starting as soon as possible. In particular, carbon pricing, implicit or explicit, will be needed, and low emissions technologies need to be developed and deployed faster, and that's going to require higher investment in R&D and in new low carbon planted equipment. To keep costs down, it's vital that the associated market failures are tackled. Market failures that we've known about for a long time, but which it is now much more urgent that we address. And the sorts of things I'm thinking about are problems such as underinvestment in research, inadequate provision of information on energy efficiency, the difficulties in setting up new networks for electricity and other fuel supplies, and the question of land use. We need better management of land use, which in many places means establishing and clarifying property rights. But with the right policies in place around the world and success in low carbon innovation, several of the recent studies suggest that the costs of having a 50-50 chance of keeping below a 2 degrees increase will be between 0 and 5% of GDP. And that's before factoring in any co-benefits from things such as reduced local air pollution and greater energy security. Now, as I've stressed, part of the secret to keeping costs manageable and making sure that it's feasible to stay below this temperature increase ceiling is taking early action. And that's why we think it makes sense to aim for a global greenhouse gas emissions target of 44 gigatons, or billion tonnes if you prefer, by 2020, and harvesting the so-called low-hanging fruit of improved energy efficiency as soon as possible. And that will allow a measured pace in reducing emissions after they've peaked. If we can do that, we will have started to build the foundations for more sustainable growth and development throughout the world, and in the long run perhaps triggered a new green industrial revolution. Thank you.